Let's drop the mask for a moment. All that pressure you've been carrying, the quiet ache behind your smile, the constant need to please, to fit, to be enough, it didn't start with you. It began the moment you started living for the world's approval instead of your soul's truth. Somewhere along the way, without even noticing, you traded your voice for silence, your boldness for belonging, and your joy for permission. You became who they wanted you to be, a shape molded by expectation, a name that fit into other people's stories, but not your own. And now, maybe you're wondering why you feel so empty, so far from home, even in your own skin. But here's the truth, no one tells you. Your life is not a rehearsal. These moments slipping through your fingers, they are the only ones you get. Every second you spend living someone else's idea of who you should be is a second stolen from the person you were meant to become. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something purely for your own soul? When was the last time you stood still, not for approval, not for applause, but simply to listen to the voice within? This isn't a video to comfort you. It's here to wake something ancient inside you, to remind you that you owe this world nothing, but you owe yourself everything. And if you stay with me till the end, there's something waiting for you, a truth you may have forgotten, but your heart never did. Lesson 1. The quiet collapse of living for everyone but yourself. There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes from forgetting who you are, not in a dramatic, sudden way, but slowly, silently, as you bend yourself to meet the needs of everyone around you. Like a tree forever bowing to the wind, you begin to drift, never settling, never growing roots of your own. How often do we do this? Smile when we want to scream. Say yes when our heart is aching to say no. We learn, over time, that acceptance comes when we shrink ourselves, that approval comes at the cost of authenticity. But what no one tells you is that this path leads to an invisible kind of collapse, a life where your joy becomes dependent on someone else's permission to exist. When your worth is measured by other people's reactions, your peace becomes fragile. A compliment uplifts you briefly, a judgment crushes you completely. You become like a house built on shifting sand, always at the mercy of outside winds. The world is loud with voices telling you who to be, family, friends, strangers online, but none of them live in your body. None of them wake up with your heart. And if you keep listening to them while ignoring yourself, your inner voice will begin to fade like an old song no one plays anymore. But you can return. You can come back to yourself. Picture a tree rooted deeply into the earth. The wind howls, the storm comes, yet it remains. Still, centered, unmoved, not because it resists the world, but because it knows its place within it. That's the power of self-awareness. That's what mindfulness truly is. Not just quiet or stillness, but presence. The ability to hear your own soul above the noise. To choose yourself is not selfish, it is sacred. It means asking, what do I need today to feel whole? It means saying no with love and yes with clarity. It means trusting that your inner compass knows the way, even when others don't understand the path you're walking. Start small. In the morning, check in. What is true for me today? At night, ask, did I live as myself or as someone else's version of me? These small questions plant deep roots. The Buddha once said, peace comes from within, do not seek it without. And he was right. When you stop chasing approval, you begin to feel peace rise quietly from within you, like still water beneath a restless sky. You are already enough, not when they applaud you, not when they accept you, but now, in this moment, in your truth, in your being. So stay grounded, live gently, and remember, the world doesn't need another version of itself. It needs you, whole, rooted, and real. Lesson 2. The hidden cost of pleasing everyone but yourself. There's a silent way we betray ourselves, smiling through pain, agreeing through discomfort, nodding when our soul wants to walk away. We call it kindness. We tell ourselves we're just being polite. But what if it's something else entirely? What if, without knowing it, we've been sipping poison just to satisfy someone else's thirst? Every time you say yes while your heart whispers no, a small fracture appears in your being. At first, it's barely noticeable, but over time, these tiny breaks become deep cracks, and suddenly, the person staring back at you in the mirror feels unfamiliar. You weren't born to be agreeable at the cost of your spirit. You weren't placed here to contort your truth to fit into someone else's comfort zone, and yet, many of us do. We become performers on a stage we never chose, wearing masks just to be seen, forgetting the shape of our own face beneath them. It starts young. We're taught that being loved means being easy to be around. That acceptance comes from softness, even when it means swallowing our voice, so we learn to quiet our needs. We become adaptable, polite, predictable, and slowly, like a stream muddied by too many footsteps, we lose the clarity of who we really are. But here's the truth. Your soul was never meant to live under someone else's definition of enough. Mindfulness invites you to return, to sit with yourself in silence, without apology or performance. It asks you to stop editing your emotions for the sake of harmony, and instead honor them like sacred guests. That whisper in your chest, that discomfort when you're asked to betray your boundaries, that's your truth knocking. Real compassion doesn't begin with sacrifice. It begins with self-respect. You cannot pour warmth into others from an empty flame. You cannot keep burning just to keep everyone else from feeling cold. So ask yourself, where in your life are you quietly vanishing just to be accepted? Where have you mistaken silence for peace, agreement for love? You don't need to revolt. You don't need to shout. Just begin with stillness. Begin by asking, do I really want to give this piece of myself, or am I afraid not to? Begin by saying no gently and meaning it. Begin by setting boundaries not to push others away, but to protect the sacred ground of your being. Like a garden, your spirit must be tended, not trampled. The Buddha once said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the universe, deserve your love and affection. This isn't poetry, it's permission. A reminder that you are not here to disappear. You are here to rise. Stop abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. Stop editing your light to make it easier on their eyes. The world may not always understand it, but when you begin to live from the inside out, instead of the outside in, you don't just find freedom, you become it. Lesson 3. Rise without apology. Let go of the need to be liked. There is no rule that says you must be loved by everyone to live in peace. The sun rises each morning without asking permission. It shines without apology, knowing some will welcome its warmth while others retreat into the shade. And yet, it continues to rise. Why then do we hesitate? Why do we shrink ourselves to fit into someone else's comfort? Why do we edit our truth to avoid the sting of disapproval? The answer is subtle and deeply human. We've mistaken approval for oxygen. We've learned to crave validation like a thirst that can't be quenched. And so, bit by bit, we trade authenticity for applause. We put on softer masks, quieter voices, easier versions of ourselves, not because it feels right, but because we're afraid of what rejection might cost us. But here's the greater cost. When you live for the approval of others, you lose touch with the stillness inside you. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment, even to reputation, is a form of suffering. When we cling to being liked, we drift further from being real. You weren't meant to bend for every hand that reaches for you. You weren't born to be small, just to make others more comfortable. You were made to root yourself deeply, like a mountain unmoved by wind, and live from that place of unwavering truth. Ask yourself, how many times have you betrayed your own intuition just to avoid being judged? How often have you paused your dreams, silenced your voice, or played it safe, just to stay inside someone else's idea of acceptable? Real strength is not about convincing the world. It's about not needing to. Let people misunderstand you. Let them question your path. Their opinion is not your prison. Their judgment is not your truth. As the Buddha said, do not look for a sanctuary in anyone except yourself. That's where freedom begins, not in being understood, but in standing calmly in your own being. So what would happen if you stopped performing and simply existed? What would shift if you trusted your light, even when others looked away? The people meant for your path will never ask you to dim, and the ones who do, they were only passing clouds, never meant to stay. Let it be okay if some people don't like you. That's not arrogance. It's self-respect. It's saying, this is who I am. I no longer need to be smaller to be safe. You don't have to fight for your worth. You only need to remember it. Build your confidence from the inside. Don't hand it to strangers to protect. Don't wait for praise to feel valuable or wait for permission to begin. Start in the small moments. Before you share your voice, ask, am I doing this from truth or from fear? Before you seek approval, pause and ask, do I already know what I need? These tiny reflections create a powerful mind, calm, grounded, and unshakable. The Buddha said, no one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path, so walk yours, not for applause, not for recognition, but because it's yours. You were not born for the spotlight. You were born for the truth. And even in silence, even without approval, you still shine. Lesson 4. Why honoring yourself is the beginning of real compassion. We've been taught that to be good is to be selfless, that to love others well, we must forget ourselves. But here's the truth the world rarely speaks. You are not here to be empty so that others may be full. You cannot pour light from a flame that's flickering. And yet, how often do you give your time, your energy, your heart when you have nothing left to give? We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. We confuse burnout with virtue, but Buddhist wisdom reminds us, true compassion begins with the self. Imagine trying to light 1,000 lamps with a candle that's barely burning. What you give others is always a reflection of what you first give yourself. If your heart is depleted, your giving becomes hollow, strained, restless, tired. But if your spirit is nourished, your kindness flows freely. It arrives without expectation, without resentment, without cost. Living for yourself is not selfish, it is sacred. It means becoming a sanctuary for your own soul so that what you offer the world comes from fullness, not from fragments. It means waking up and asking, what do I need to feel whole? Instead of endlessly asking, what do they need from me today? In today's world, we're applauded for self-sacrifice. We're expected to be everything for everyone. But the deeper truth is this: the greatest gift you can give others is your own well-being. When your mind is calm, your love is clear. When your spirit is full, your service becomes a blessing, not a burden. What would shift if you treated your life as something sacred? What peace would grow if you stopped apologizing for your needs? What boundaries would you finally set, not out of bitterness, but from reverence for your own heart? When you honor yourself, you create space for others to do the same. Your self-respect becomes a quiet permission slip. It tells those around you, you don't have to burn out to be loved. You don't have to disappear to be enough. So begin today. Before reaching outward, turn inward. Ask your breath what it needs. Ask your spirit what it longs for. Be as gentle with yourself as you are with those you care for. Offer yourself the same patience, the same kindness, the same presence. The Buddha taught us to return home to ourselves, to sit, to breathe, to see clearly, and from that place of rooted stillness, love flows like water. Giving becomes effortless. Compassion expands, but only when we begin within. You yourself, he said, as much as anybody in the universe, deserve your love and affection. And it's not just a quote, it's an invitation. You were not born to burn for others. You were born to shine, to tend to your own fire so that its warmth can touch the world, gently, fully, without condition. So build a mind that is steady and clear. Let your inner peace be your first priority, and from that wholeness, let your light become a gift that needs no reward. Lesson 5. When you create for your soul, not the crowd, there's a quiet kind of freedom that enters your life the moment you stop chasing applause and start listening to your own heartbeat. Imagine an artist, brush in hand, pouring spirit into a canvas, only to abandon the vision the moment silence falls over the crowd. That's what we do when we live by others' standards. We trade our truth for validation, our vision for approval, our pace for someone else's ticking clock. But the Buddha's wisdom reminds us of this. Peace begins the moment you stop performing for the world and start living from your own truth. Ask yourself, whose life are you living right now? Whose success are you trying to mirror? Today's world is loud. It tells you who to be, what to achieve, and how to appear. Social media floods you with images of perfect lives. Family and society give you timelines you never agreed to. But when you chase someone else's version of success, you become like a wave trying to outrun the ocean, restless, exhausted, never enough. Instead, Buddhism invites you to shift the compass inward. It teaches you to walk by your own light, to stop asking, "What do they expect of me?" and begin asking, "What honors my soul?" This is the art of inner freedom, setting your own standards, keeping your own promises, and choosing goals that nourish your spirit rather than feed your ego. Picture a life where your worth isn't counted in promotions, followers, or trophies, but in peace, in integrity, in the quiet, knowing that you lived your day in alignment with your values. When you stop measuring yourself against others, something powerful happens. You slow down. You begin to walk at your own pace, no longer in a race, but on a path. And that path is sacred because it is yours. Each step becomes intentional. Each decision a quiet act of self-respect. Your life becomes a meditation, not loud or flashy, but deeply beautiful, like brush strokes on a canvas only you can see. So make this your daily vow. I will create, not to impress, but to express. I will act, not for recognition, but from alignment. I will live, not to be seen, but to be whole. True success is not found in the noise of applause, but in the silence of self-trust. That's where your masterpiece lives, not out there in the world, but within. The Buddha once said, "Your work is to discover your world, and then with all your heart, give yourself to it. Not the world they handed you, not the one they expect from you, but the one that calls from inside. So let go of the stage. Return to the studio of your soul. Begin creating for an audience of one, your deepest self. And when you do, the beauty that returns will be real, lasting, and entirely your own." Lesson 6. You were never meant to be bargained with. A diamond doesn't argue about its value. It doesn't ask the market for permission to shine. It simply does, quietly and fully, without apology. And yet, so many of us live as if our worth is up for negotiation. We offer pieces of ourselves in exchange for love, approval, belonging, believing somehow that we must earn our place in the world. But Buddhism points us gently back to the truth. Your existence is already enough. Your value does not need permission. It does not increase when others praise you or decrease when they walk away. It simply is. From an early age, we were conditioned to measure ourselves by achievements, appearances, and attention. We were taught that to be loved, we must perform, and so we learned to wear masks, to shrink or shapeshift, hoping to be accepted. But this constant bargaining comes at a cost. It fragments the soul. Buddhism teaches another way, unconditional self-acceptance. Just like a mountain doesn't explain how tall it is, or a river why it flows a certain way, you don't need to explain your existence. You are already complete. Imagine the freedom you'd feel if you stopped needing the world's approval. If you no longer asked, "Am I good enough for them?" and instead believed, "I am already whole." Picture yourself moving through life steady like the earth, unshaken by praise, unaffected by rejection. True peace begins when you stop making deals with your soul, when you stop needing permission to be exactly as you are. You don't need to explain, impress, or prove anything. You weren't born to convince others of your worth. You were born to live it. And when you do, you set yourself free. Because what others think of you isn't the truth. It's just their opinion. The real truth lives within, in that quiet place where you finally remember, "I am already enough." This isn't pride. It's being real. It's the quiet strength of living true to your nature. The Buddha once said, "You yourself, just as much as anyone else in the universe, deserve your own love and care." Let this truth guide you. Your worth is not a race, not something to earn. It's something you were born with. So stop giving away your soul just to be accepted. Stop judging your spirit by the approval of others. Build a mind that stays calm, focused, and filled with good thoughts. Move through this life not as a question, but as a full sentence. Let your presence say, "I am here, I am complete," and that is enough. Lesson 7. Stop making yourself small. You were born to be whole. There comes a time in every life when you grow tired of shrinking, tired of bending yourself into smaller shapes just to match someone else's idea of who you should be. Tired of saying sorry for your truth, your feelings, or your strength. And when that time comes, it's not loud, it's quiet, like a whisper from your soul, and it gently tells you, you were never meant to live this way. Buddhism doesn't ask us to become something we're not. It shows us how to return to who we already are, whole, worthy, and complete. The pain we feel when we try to prove ourselves, please others, or seek approval, that pain doesn't come from being broken. It comes from losing touch with who we really are. You're not here just to be liked. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be yourself, fully, freely, and with courage. The Buddha taught that suffering comes from attachment, and one of the strongest attachments we carry is the belief that our worth depends on others. But the truth is clear. You don't need to earn love. You don't have to chase peace. The moment you stop waiting for permission to be yourself, that's when real healing begins. So ask yourself, where in your life are you still hiding? Where are you still holding back your truth, hoping to be chosen, hoping to be enough? And more importantly, what if you stopped? What would your life become if you no longer explained yourself? If you no longer edited your soul? If you simply allowed yourself to be as you are? You weren't born to perform. You were born to simply be. You were born to sit calmly in your own presence and feel at peace. And that kind of confidence, the quiet, steady kind, doesn't come from proving anything to the world, but from falling in love with your own inner light. Don't shrink. Don't settle. Don't give your self-worth to a world that doesn't know how to see it. Your value is not open for debate. Your truth isn't something to be voted on. Your life is not a stage built for applause. It is a sacred path of becoming. The Buddha said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it outside." And this is your path now, to stop shrinking, to stop proving, and to begin living from the fullness of who you are. Because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs your true light. Let yourself take up space. Let yourself shine without needing to say sorry. And let that be your quiet rebellion to be true, to be whole, to be you. Conclusion. So here we are at the end, and yet it's also the beginning. If this video stirred something within you, if it made you pause, reflect, or remember who you really are beneath all the noise, then don't let that feeling fade. Let it plant a seed. Because the truth is, nothing changes until you choose to change. Not tomorrow, not someday. This is your life, your journey, your moment to stop performing and start simply being. So I invite you, not to chase another version of yourself, but to return to the one you left behind, to honor your soul more than your image, to walk through life not faster, but with more depth. Share in the comments. What part of this video touched your heart the most? I read every message, and your words might be the light someone else needs today. And if you're walking this path of inner freedom, if you're ready to live by your truth, not the world's rules, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell. Because this channel isn't just content, it's a space for your soul to rest and grow. Thank you for being here, for choosing to grow, for choosing you. Until next time, breathe deeply, walk gently, and come home to who you truly are.